A fresh wave of Iranian missile fire struck Israel early Friday, marking a sharp escalation in an already volatile regional conflict that now spans multiple fronts, from Iran to Lebanon and deep into Israeli territory. The barrage, reportedly the fourth since midnight, triggered widespread air raid sirens across southern and central Israel, underscoring the sustained pressure on the country's air defense systems. Israeli military officials confirmed that a limited number of missiles were launched from Iran, with most successfully intercepted before reaching populated areas. However, one projectile targeting central Israel is believed to have carried a cluster munition warhead, raising alarm over the evolving nature of the threat. Unlike conventional payloads, such warheads disperse multiple submunitions midair, increasing the area of impact rather than precision targeting. This development comes amid a broader regional conflict that intensified following joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran in late February 2026, triggering retaliatory actions by Iran and its allied groups, including Hezbollah. While Israel's air defense network has managed to intercept many incoming threats, the scale and frequency of attacks have kept the country on high alert. Another missile reportedly struck an open area, causing no immediate casualties, but reinforcing concerns about the sustained nature of the campaign. Simultaneously, Israel's northern front witnessed renewed violence as rockets were launched from southern Lebanon into Israeli territory. Sirens echoed across coastal cities, including Nahariya, as residents scrambled for shelter. The attacks were attributed to Hezbollah, the Iran-backed militant group that has increasingly become a central actor in the expanding conflict. Since early March, Hezbollah has launched repeated rocket and drone attacks on Israel in coordination with broader Iranian operations. In one of the latest strikes, a rocket hit a residential area in northern Israel, killing a man in his 30s and seriously injuring another. Emergency responders described scenes of devastation, shattered glass, burning vehicles, and debris scattered across the impact site. A witness recalled the moment of impact, saying, "We were shocked." Air raid sirens had sounded shortly before the strike, but the speed and intensity of the attack left little time for preparation. The projectile landed near a residential building, damaging vehicles and nearby structures and highlighting the vulnerability of civilian areas. This incident is part of a growing pattern of cross-border exchanges that have intensified significantly in recent weeks, transforming northern Israel into an active combat zone. Beyond aerial exchanges, the conflict has escalated into direct ground combat between Israeli forces and Hezbollah fighters inside southern Lebanon. The Israeli military confirmed the death of Staff Sergeant Ori Greenberg, a 21-year-old soldier from an elite reconnaissance unit who was killed during a close-range firefight with Hezbollah militants. The clash unfolded in the early hours of the morning when Israeli troops encountered multiple Hezbollah operatives moving within their operational zone. Gunfire erupted suddenly, echoing through the darkness as both sides engaged at close quarters. During the exchange, Greenberg was fatally wounded, marking another loss for Israeli forces in an increasingly dangerous ground campaign. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a statement following the incident, saying, "My wife and I, together with all the citizens of Israel, share in the deep sorrow of the Golani Reconnaissance Unit fighter, Staff Sergeant Ori Greenberg of blessed memory, who fell in battle in southern Lebanon. We extend our heartfelt condolences to Ori's family. He fought with bravery and courage to defend our northern border. May his memory be a blessing." The soldier's death adds to a growing toll among Israeli forces since the launch of ground operations aimed at dismantling Hezbollah infrastructure near the border. As fighting intensifies, Israel has signaled a significant expansion of its military objectives in Lebanon. Defense officials have announced plans to establish a security zone extending up to the Litani River, approximately 30 kilometers north of the Israeli border. This strategy mirrors past Israeli military doctrine aimed at pushing hostile forces away from its territory. According to reports, Israeli forces have already destroyed key infrastructure, including bridges over the Litani River, to disrupt Hezbollah's movement of fighters and weapons. The broader objective, Israeli officials say, is to eliminate the threat posed by Hezbollah's missile capabilities and prevent future attacks on northern communities. One senior Israeli official emphasized the strategy, stating the principle is absolutely clear. If there is terror and missiles, there will be no homes and no residents, and the IDF will be inside. Israel's defense leadership has also made it clear that displaced residents in southern Lebanon will not be allowed to return until security conditions are fully stabilized. Hezbollah, for its part, has claimed significant battlefield successes, including the destruction of Israeli armored units. The group says it carried out coordinated ambushes targeting Israeli tank formations and engineering vehicles using guided anti-tank missiles. According to Hezbollah's account, fighters waited until Israeli units entered a designated kill zone before launching a wave of attacks that destroyed multiple tanks and armored bulldozers. While these claims have not been independently verified, they reflect the intensity of the fighting and Hezbollah's effort to project strength amid ongoing Israeli offensives. The current escalation is part of a broader regional conflict involving Iran, Israel, and multiple allied groups. Since early March, the war has spread across several fronts, including Iran itself, where Israeli airstrikes have targeted military infrastructure. At the same time, Hezbollah's involvement has transformed the Lebanon-Israel border into a major battleground. The conflict has already resulted in significant casualties in Lebanon and displaced large numbers of civilians, creating a severe humanitarian crisis. Recent reports indicate that Israeli airstrikes and ground operations have devastated large parts of southern Lebanon, forcing mass evacuations and raising concerns about long-term instability. Perhaps most concerning are Hezbollah's claims of targeting high-value Israeli military sites, including defense infrastructure in Tel Aviv. The group has alleged that it launched precision-guided missiles toward sensitive locations, including Israel's defense ministry complex. Israeli officials, however, say their air defense systems successfully intercepted incoming threats. The Israeli military confirmed that multiple projectiles were detected and neutralized mid-air, preventing significant damage. Still, the attempt itself signals a dangerous escalation, with strategic targets now firmly within the scope of the conflict. As military operations intensify, the human cost continues to rise. Civilians on both sides of the conflict remain exposed to ongoing attacks, with casualties reported from rocket strikes, air raids, and ground clashes. In Lebanon, the scale of displacement has reached alarming levels, while in Israel, repeated rocket attacks have disrupted daily life, forcing residents into shelters and increasing psychological strain. Emergency services continue to respond to incidents across affected areas, while humanitarian organizations warn of a deepening crisis that could worsen if hostilities persist. What began as a series of retaliatory strikes has now evolved into a full-scale, multi-front conflict involving state and non-state actors across the Middle East. Israeli leadership has made it clear that operations against both Iran and Hezbollah will continue, emphasizing a long-term strategy aimed at reshaping the regional security landscape. At the same time, Hezbollah has issued warnings that any attempt by Israel to occupy southern Lebanon will be met with unyielding resistance, framing such moves as an existential threat. The fragile ceasefire arrangements that once governed the region have effectively collapsed, replaced by a cycle of escalation that shows little sign of slowing. The latest wave of missile attacks and ground clashes marks a critical juncture in the ongoing conflict. With Iran directly launching missiles, Hezbollah intensifying cross-border attacks, and Israel expanding its military operations deep into Lebanon, the region is now facing one of its most dangerous periods in recent history. As both sides escalate their actions and rhetoric, the risk of a broader regional war continues to grow, one that could have far-reaching consequences not just for the Middle East, but for global stability as well.